It's maple syrup time at Lenny's. Today, we're talking Alpha Flight number 2 on the newest Mutants! Hi, I'm Laz. I read comics so you don't have to. And as we continue our Fall of X coverage, I just want to remind you that if you haven't already, now is the time to click like and hit that subscribe button. With that being said, let's get Canadian. Before I give a story breakdown on Alpha Flight number 2, I realized I don't think I did an episode on Alpha Flight number 1. That being said, I'm not going to. Instead, all you need to know in Alpha Flight number 1 is that non-mutant members of Alpha Flight are officially on board with the anti-mutant sentiment that's going around the world, but of course, secretly, they're trying to help them. On the surface, it looks like there is a schism between the mutants and non-mutants of the team, but it's all a part of their plan. However, who knows how long they can keep up this facade? With that bit of information, I'm going to do my best to catch us up. Our story begins at Krakoa North, northern Manitoba, Canada. Guardian is touring the location and is discussing the Box Sentinel program. Just for your information, a Box Sentinel is a smaller, more delicate sentinel that won't cause as much property damage. The landlords love them. Additionally, Alpha Flight has been secretly protecting Canadian mutants. According to Kyle Ginadu, 23 of them to be exact. Sadly, without a Cerebro unit, they don't really know how many they are that are out there that they can still save. We then get a touching scene of Aurora speaking to some of the mutant children refugees about how dangerous it is to leave the facility. Very sad. She's smart, though, and is like, hey, don't worry, kids. We got video games. Back to Guardian, Kyle, and Northstar. Guardian thinks that they can use the Box Sentinel program to their advantage, giving the mutant members of the team locations on where to find some mutants, while the above-board members of Alpha Flight go specifically after criminal mutants. Guardian wants to access the information that the Sentinels use and prioritize the legitimate threats. Northstar wonders if Department H will just hand over that information. FYI, Department H is the Canadian government's program to monitor superhumans as well as oversee Alpha Flight. We cut to one of my favorite members of Alpha Flight, and that is Shaman. Shaman is doing a quick inspection of one Laurent Bavoda, aka Argent, and is apologizing for being a bit rough on their extraction. He explains that they had to be that way to convince Department H that they were, quote, on their side. Shaman says that they could use someone with Argent's abilities on Alpha Flight, but Laurent says not to call him that and that he no longer wants to be involved with violence and just wants to go back home. Shaman says, hey, you'll have a place to stay here until it's safe. Next, we see Fang and Puck speaking by way of hologram to Empress Zandra of the Shi'ar Empire and the daughter of Professor X and Lalandra, the former Empress. They're asking her to take in some mutant refugees. She says she'll take them in, but any other help would look like an imperialist action, which is not something that she wants. Puck says it's safer than dumping them on Araco/Mars, which is in a state of civil war, which you would know if you were either watching my videos or reading X-Men Red. We go now to America's Diner, Lenny's, a place where you can get breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as well as, a Sentinel attack. Look, it's your usual small-town diner. A young man is getting his coffee refilled when he notices people whispering in the diner. He asks for the check in Canadian, spelled Cheque. I have to point this out because we don't spell it that way, so I'm glad Marvel is doing some localization. Anyways, this person is actually Albert Louis, who is wanted by the FBI for an assault on Somas Biotech. The manager of the diner comes to check in personally with Louis, as he's never seen him here before, and wants to make sure his meal was great, even offering him a free piece of pie to stick around a little while. Louis is like, I gotta go. But when he exits the diner, he finds it surrounded by law enforcement. Albert tells everyone to get out of the diner as his eyes flare up to an electric yellow. Back in Krakoa North, we have Snowbird checking in on Nemesis. Nemesis has been weakened by teleporting people around, specifically by using the S-Cell sword. I think that's what it's called. It drains her energy. Nemesis is mostly worried that when she's needed the most, she won't have that energy. It could be some foreshadowing here. Snowbird suggests she talk to Guardian about the issue and that she doesn't have to do this alone. Just then, Puck barges in and is like, hey, we gotta go protect one of our own in Bend, Oregon. Nemesis brandishes the S-Cell sword. She's ready. Somewhere in the skies above Canada, we are now in Alpha Flight's jet. Erica Doiron, director of Department H, contacts them asking, why are you heading towards U.S. airspace? Guardian tells her that they're going after a former member, and he makes the case that going after a former member of Alpha Flight would show the world that they can clean up their own problems. Erica is like, oh, you finally get it. Though she claims Albert Lewis was technically a member of Beta Flight, which I find hilarious, but Beta Flight is a thing. Erica says this needs to go off without a hitch. Guardian says it will, and he gives her his word. His word is not good enough since Northstar, Aurora, and Nemesis have already humiliated Alpha Flight and Department H, previously in Alpha Flight number 1. Erica then says they won't be going, otherwise they'll get arrested. Instead, the Box Sentinels have already been sent ahead of them. And we cut to Lenny's diner, and there they are, the Box Sentinels, ready to attack because, presumably not enough. I don't know why I keep making this joke, but not enough maple syrup. I'm sorry, Canadians. We're back in the Alpha jet, and Guardian orders the jet to turn around. He hates the decision, but he has to make this call. Somewhere in Department H, we cut to Roger, who is controlling the Box Sentinels, and he reports on Albert Lewis' activities in the diner and that he is alone. Erica wants him taken alive if possible. The Sentinels make that demand of Albert Lewis, also known as feedback, and they ask him to surrender. Albert just wants to be left alone, and so he transforms and attacks them. Sentinels start going down left and right. Albert declares he's done nothing wrong, and Roger, who is controlling the Sentinels, says, "You're a mutant and still on Earth. That is your crime." When suddenly, another Sentinel explodes. It's the mutant members of Alpha Flight, Aurora, Northstar, Nemesis, and Fang. They've arrived. And that's the book! Welcome now to the part of the episode where I thank you for making it this far. And as always, I always like to ask a question about the book. So today's question is Guardian right to turn that jet around, or should Alpha Flight go rogue? I can't say I know too much really about Alpha Flight to really understand the team's motivations and dynamics. At least they're actively, working against Orcus even in secret. Still, as an official government operation, it seems like you're going to have to choose a side at some point. What do you think? Leave a comment down below and let's talk about it. But now, back to the show. Okay, first, let's give credit where credit is due. I have the variant edition cover of Alpha Flight number 2 done by artist Nicoletta Baldari. Check it out, very cool. However, the direct edition cover, right here, was done by one Leonard Kirk and Edgar Delgado. Our writer for this issue is Ed Brisson. Scott Godlewski is our artist. Color art done by Matt Milla. Our letterer, Travis Lanham. And Mr. C.B. Cebulski is Marvel's editor-in-chief. Now it's time for my takeaways, and really I just have one main takeaway from this issue, and it involves the ruse that Guardian and the other non-mutant members of Alpha Flight are perpetuating on Department H. How long can they keep this up for? Not likely a long time. It already feels a little flimsy to me. Clearly, the antagonists of this book are going to be Erica and Department H and the Box Sentinels, but is there another party pulling the strings? I kind of want something bigger to be the villain, not just government oversight. I don't know. Maybe that's just a Canadian thing. Who knows? With that, let's get to my favorite panels in this book. Coming up as my third favorite panel, it belongs to this simple art of the Alpha Flight's jet. It's highly detailed, and I love art of machines and mechs and aircraft. It's something old anime used to do really, really well. So whenever a comic throws me a bone like this of a highly detailed piece of equipment or aircraft or something similar, I gotta be a fan of it. Check it out. My second favorite panel in this book is actually the final panel of the book, and it's the Alpha Flight mutants arriving to save Albert Lewis and taking down a box sentinel. With Fang leading the charge, it's pretty rad panel. Also, the teleportation and power effects from Nemesis look really, really cool. I enjoy this one a lot. It was very close, tied to the first panel, but I'll show you that one right now. And here is my favorite panel, and it belongs to the attack on Lenny's by the Box Sentinels. When you're all out of maple syrup, sometimes you just gotta destroy the joint. Okay, sorry for yet another terrible Canadian joke. What do I know? Please just enjoy this art. It's really effing cool. It's really cool. And that's the show. Of course, we're never finished until I can show off a comic from my collection. And just because I can, today's issue is Alpha Flight #1. From 1983, released a little more than 20 years ago. This is a classic John Byrne and Terry Austin cover, and it's my pick from my collection for today. Check it out. It's rad. Next time, we'll be talking about Wolverine #37 in a row. Until then, this has been the newest Mutants!